March 25th, 2021 meeting of the Ames Parks and Recreation Commission. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this will be an electronic meeting. If you wish to provide input on any item, you may do so as a video participant by going to zoom.us/j/950-338-16272. You may also view the meeting online at the following sites: youtube.com/Ames Channel 12, cityofames.org/Channel 12, or watch the meeting on Mediacom Cable Channel 12. All right, let's do approval of minutes. Can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from the February 18th, 2021 meeting?
A motion to approve the minutes.
This is Ludwig, I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from February 18th, 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Last minute addition to the agenda today is to appoint a temporary vice chair in case I have to leave early. Would anyone like to make a motion appointing a temporary vice chair?
I'll motion that we approve, appoint Jacob.
Second.
All in favor of appointing Jacob Ludwig as the temporary vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. So if I have to leave early, then Jacob will take over the meeting. So, okay. Next item on the agenda is a public forum. This is for items not on the agenda. So if you have a comment or feedback on anything in the agenda, you can speak to it during that agenda item. But if you have a general comment or feedback, you can speak now.
There are no hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. Seeing no speakers for the public forum, we'll go ahead and close public forum. Next item on the agenda is a staff report regarding programs, activities, and events being held in the park system.
Yeah. So as we get moving into the summer, we're already having requests for activities in the park system. Some of them are our activities, such as municipal band, movies in the park. But there are a lot of other requests. Some of them are on the agenda, for tonight, such as Ames on the Half Shell, the Ames Cyclo-Aquatics Club, Rock the Blocks, the Ames Triathlon. We've already approved that, kind of conditional on everything that's going on at the time with it, and that's what council has been doing as well, such as music walk, art walk, farmers market, the 4th of July parade. They've all kind of made them conditional, but they have given that approval. So really tonight, what just wanted to do is get commission's input on what you feel about activities. And again, we listed some of these additional ones: Roosevelt Summer Concert Series. There's different events that are happening within the park system. Most of them up at Ada Hayden Heritage Park. But just wanted to see, and we did list a few questions there, but just wanted to get your thoughts in regards to doing these activities in the park system. So any comments? I saw some heads nodding.
Let's get them going.
So are we just planning to like return to like normal capacity this summer, or?
Yeah, that's what it would be. You know, if there are any restrictions, obviously, if people are using like shelter reservations or wanting to do something at a shelter, we do have capacity restrictions. So if capacity is 100, they would have to follow that. But that's a normal park kind of rule or guideline that we have with it. So and with the things, you know, we would look if events are being held. You know, staff would have a conversation with them, tell them it's contingent upon what the guidelines are in place, and we did highlight, you know, the CDC, City Council, Governor, what would be in place at the time. But it would be up to the organizers to make sure that the events and people were following whatever those guidelines are. Other questions or comments?
Feel like that. Sorry, a hard thing for people is when events are restricted outdoors, because I feel like that's the safe space, and people are really eager to get out there. I mean, the few warm days we've already had, I mean, people are busting out trying to get everywhere, and I feel like if we have an opportunity to support that, we should. The fact is that people that are concerned about continued distancing and masks, they're still going to wear it, and they're still not going to come. So at this point, I don't see a reason to not open our outdoor facilities and remind people of our great amenities.
I guess my only feedback would be, you know, like thinking of some of these, like the Rock the Block swim meet, you know, most like the triathlon's not going to have a ton of spectators like in a close area, but like the swim meet, like that you know, everyone is fenced into the aquatic center, so that's kind of the only one that's concerning to me in terms of like spectators that are close. But that, you know, that might be a question for the aquatics club if they're planning to limit spectators or anything like that. And then I guess to point 3 in the commission direction, you know, is there a point at which like we have, you know, so many cases per week average, or, you know, the rolling 7-day average is above whatever, at which you don't feel comfortable allowing the park system to host events anymore. I don't know what that number should be, but maybe there should be at this level, you know, need to reduce capacity. And then at this level, we don't want you to host large events in the park system. So, but that would be my main feedback. You know, generally I'm not concerned about it. I think this summer, you know, like Eve said, people who are continuing to take precautions are going to continue to avoid large groups or masking, you know, continue to mask, things like that. But I still think there should be a threshold at which the city is able to say, we have too many cases this month, you know, or the last couple of weeks, we need to dial back on group activities, you know, just something like that, so that you feel like there are clear guidelines set out for these organizations now, so you're not deciding on the fly at which point to, you know, to make those tough calls. So that would be my main feedback.
So let me just address both of those comments that you made, Sarah. So one, in regards to Rock the Blocks, when we get to that agenda item, Kelly and Jill and Nate have been having conversation with the AIM Cyclo Aquatics Club and have talked about a lot of those items. So Kelly will highlight that when we get to that item. Also, Mike Peterson, who's the head swim coach, for ACAC, he's aboard, so he can address some of that if there are specific questions. So I think that will be addressed in a number of in that item. But that was a concern for us, and Kelly, Jill, Nate, Mike have had really good conversation, and think you'll see what they're proposing. In regards to the rolling average and things, generally what we have done right now is even throughout this, and I think we have done a really good job of determining when things should happen and when things shouldn't happen. So I think we've been very good at that. It's very tough with I think to say, hey, if the rolling average gets above 5% or something along those lines. I think what we would look for is CDC guidance, IDPH, the governor, maybe city council to look at it. So sometimes CDC or IDPH or the governor, if it starts getting to a point where they've been uncomfortable, they have started limiting the number of outdoor gatherings or the number of participants and so on. So I think from our standpoint, I think we would look to those guidelines or that advice from those groups to help us make those decisions. Because right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you what that number should be.
Okay, yeah, my only concern is with either IDPH or the governor's guidelines is I feel like they have been too reactive to the case counts. We both time, like when we closed down bars I think bars and Ames and Iowa City, I felt like that was already after we were having sort of at the height of this huge spike of cases. So and I feel like that was kind of the same situation in the fall. In November, there weren't these restrictions put in place until we were already really in a bad spot in terms of number of cases. So I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in, but I also don't want to be reactive in placing these, sort of these benchmarks, because I feel like these organizations that are planning events should have, they should be able to look a week out and say, yep, case counts are really good, looks like we'll be able to go forward with this. Whereas it feels like some of the restrictions that are coming from the governor or from IDPH are starting today at 5 p.m., all the bars are closed. And so, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough spot.
Yeah, and with that, Sarah, if the governor does that, a day before an event, there's nothing we can do about it. If the governor comes out and says no more outdoor gatherings, then and it's a day before event, we're going to have to call that organizer and tell them that. But I think with a lot of these events, Joshua keeps in constant contact. He coordinates with them a lot. Kelly and Jill in regards to ACAC and some of the other events. We're doing it with our own activities, and I don't think we have had any situation where we've come in short notice and told anybody that hey, you cannot have your event in 5 days or a week. Because generally we've had constant communication with them, and if we think it's a possibility, as soon as we think that, we'll start having conversation with those groups. I guess what I'm saying is I think we as staff have had a good track record, and if the commission says move forward, we'd also I guess look for commission to say, hey, staff, make good decisions, keep constant communication open, and if you have to cancel an event or because something's happened, we trust that you're going to do the right thing. I guess that's what we would be looking for from the commission.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think taking each event on a case by case basis is, there's not that many of the events, and you're, like you said, being in touch with the organizers. So rather than having like a strict cutoff in terms of number of cases or positivity rate or something like that. So no, so I think that makes sense if you feel comfortable with that,
Yeah.
So that, but in general, I'm cautiously optimistic about these things going forward as planned in the summer, and just continuing to rely on staff to have those conversations with the organizers.
Yep. Are there any other questions?
I have a quick comment, Keith. I'm definitely in line with Eve. If we learned anything from last year, is people got out and used our facilities, and this is going to be a great opportunity because people are going to build on that and utilize our activities that we're offering. And I do think we make really good decisions on that and go out and use our park. So I'd like to see everything absolutely opened up and showcase. We show our community that they learned last year. They enjoy our trails and our parks, and let's open it all up, including drinking fountains, at least so my dog can get a drink when we go running. So
Yeah, and they will be. We're planning on the drinking fountains being open here later in April.
Keith, here, I know on campus, we're pretty much ready to go by June, and we just kind of got notices that they're looking at vaccinating part of campus that have contact with the public. I think with the governor's proclamation, or not proclamation, but news conference yesterday, they're looking at having the state of Iowa at least 2/3 to 3/4 vaccinated by, summertime. So most of these events, I know Rock the Blocks is later on. There should be a fairly heavy dose of people with shots in the arms that want them. And I know Mike said something in the chat that he'd like to talk, but I'd like to hear from Mike too. But I know he does a really good job on, just safety all over the place. I can't imagine that they're going to, if we even have a mask mandate, they'll make sure they enforce it because, they got parent volunteers all over the place to do that. But I kind of there with Nathan that we need to get going and open it up. And, if the governor comes down and hammers us and says, shut it down tomorrow, there's a whole lot of other things that are going to be shutting down here in Ames. Because we're all going to be running at full capacity with orientation and possibly with the spring football game, and all of our facilities are going to be wide open. So I can't imagine that we're not going to be in good shape coming in the next few months with vaccinations and being able to handle all this. So I'm totally for it.
And one of the things too, Dwayne, when you're talking about vaccinations. We've been having conversations with Story County Public Health this week, and our aquatic staff is going to start getting vaccinated, and some of our camp staff once we get them on board, and I know we have other staff that have been getting vaccinated, whether they fall into one of the categories that have been open or looking to get vaccinated, once April 5th comes around, if doses are available. So we are working on trying to get staff vaccinated as well, which will help also.
Okay. Do you want a motion here, or do we want to recommend to council to, approve any events that come before them, or is this just informational?
No, if commission wanted to make the motion, doesn't necessarily have to be to city council. It could be a motion in the form of, we move that we are in support of opening up the park system for outdoor activities, support staff in making decisions on whether or not they should continue. Because there may be something too with if somebody doesn't come up with a good plan when they're presenting their event, maybe we say, your plan isn't good enough. Here are some things that you need to do with it. But so that's, I guess, with that, if the motion, if that makes sense to you. So just support of opening up the park system for outdoor activities, and trust staff to make decisions on whether or not they should continue or not continue.
Keith, before we go down that path, can we hear from Mike to kind of listen to what they have planned, so we at least have a baseline?
Well, we do have another event, or we do have another agenda item, Dwayne, specifically with Rock the Blocks. So what I'm hearing from commission right now on this particular item is that you're supportive of outdoor activities. So I guess I'd rather have Kelly, once we get to the Rock the Blocks agenda item, kind of go through what they've discussed and have Mike talk at that time. I think you're going to hear what you want to hear, regarding safety and spreading people out and so on. If that's okay, we can have him talk if you want, but I think it'd be more appropriate once you get the full backstory on the Rock the Blocks conversation.
Okay.
Now, Stacy, you had your hand raised. Do you wanna say something? If you want to open things up to the public. Stacy Ross is with the Roosevelt Summer Concert Series. Stacy, if you want to say something, go ahead, raise your hand. All right, raise her hand. All right, go ahead and unmute Stacy, and then you can talk.
Hi, I'm Stacy Ross. I am chair of Friends of Roosevelt Park, and we help organize the Roosevelt Summer Sundays concert series. We are very eager to host some concerts again this summer, and we appreciate the conversation the commission is having to be planful about doing this safely. We do intend to do everything in guidance of government regulations and to the best of our ability. So thank you for your time and consideration on this. If you have any questions for me about how we plan to host our events, we haven't started meeting yet, but I'll do the best I can to answer any questions you might have.
Stacy, I don't know if this is really a minor concern. If I know you sometimes have potlucks at the park, and I don't know if those are associated with the concert or if you just have one in, the end of the summer neighborhood potluck. And if you're planning on skipping that this year or planning on just back to normal 100%.
Yeah, I don't see a potluck in our future at all. I would not encourage food at our events. I mean, people can bring their own non-alcoholic beverages to the park, but we won't be sharing anything in a potluck type format this year.
Okay, I think that's totally reasonable then. So.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Looking forward to it, spending some time outside this summer. So
yes, thank you. Hope to see you all there.
Thanks, Stacy.
Is there anyone else from any of these potential events in the audience, or other than Rock the Blocks? Would anyone care to make a motion?
This is Shamanik. I'd like to make a motion that the commission supports staff in making decisions to fully open our Parks and Rec facilities and activities to the greatest potential.
Second.
Okay. motion from Nathan to open our facilities and events to their greatest potential, with discretion given to Parks and Rec staff regarding any recommended safety considerations. And yeah, and a second from Dwayne. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion to recommend to staff to open the parks to various events this summer, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. So, okay. Next item on the agenda is a motion approving the Ames JC's request to utilize Bandshell Park for their Ames on the Half Shell concerts.
I just got Craig Kaufman on here, our auditorium Bandshell community center manager. So go ahead, Craig.
All right. Thanks, Keith. So this, the request in the commission action form is very similar to what we've seen in the past. I just want to point out the changes so everybody's aware of them. Because of COVID, this event did not happen last year, so the numbers and everything that's on here are 2019 numbers for that reason. They are proposing to do this event in July this year instead of June, which would be a change, just hoping that they can get more vaccinations. And obviously our mask mandate goes till the end of June. So they're hoping that, you know, more people will come out if they do the event later. And they are only proposing 4 events this year instead of 5, because they're going to stay off the 4th of July weekend and not do an event that weekend. It would just be the 4 Saturdays after, or 4 Fridays after that in July. But outside of that, this is just the request for what's outlined in the alternatives. They are not 100% certain if the event will happen yet this year, but before they can make that plan, they need to have this approval to start moving forward with planning and deciding what they're going to do. So just based on the history of this event, you know, we recommend alternative 1, items A, B, and C. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, I think moving this to July is a great idea. It might be hotter, but I think just getting a little bit further along in vaccine rollout and seeing what the beginning of the summer does for case counts and things like that, I think I hope that gives it a better chance to be a successful event. So. All right. Any other discussion, or would anyone care to make a motion regarding this commission action form for the Ames JC's Ames on the Half Shell event?
I move that we approve alternative 1.
I will second.
Okay, a motion from Dwayne to approve alternative 1 and a second from Jeremy. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving alternative 1, which is for the JCs to sponsor Ames on the Half Shell at Bandshell Park and 4 Fridays in between July 9th and July 30th. Recommend that City Council approve alcohol to be served at Bandshell Park on these dates, and waive the JC's payment of a $1 facility fee per ticket sold and 10% of their gross food beverage sales. All in favor of that, approving alternative 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, seeing none, the motion carries. So I feel a lot more optimistic about it this year than last. So okay, thank you, Craig.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a motion to approve the use of Herman Aquatic Center by the Ames Cyclones Aquatics Club on June 4th, 5th, and 6th for their Rock the Blocks swim meet.
Thanks, Sarah. In front of you, commissioners, you have the commission action form for the swim meet. Like Sarah said, it's June 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2021. This would be the 11th annual swim meet. As you remember, last year we did not have the swim meet because of COVID. Herman wasn't open last summer. The biggest change with this year's swim meet compared to the previous 10 is ACAC will have the facility to themselves for part of the day. So Friday they would have it from 4 to 9. We're still in school hours on that Friday, June 4th. So our hours would only be 11 to 1 and 5 to 7 that day anyways. So we lose basically 5 to 7 on that Friday. Saturday, they would have it until noon. We would give them time to clean up and get out, and we would plan to open probably 2 o'clock. And then Sunday morning, they would have it to themselves as well till noon. We would open up at noon. So we would gain the 50-meter pool on that weekend, which we haven't had in the past, which we see as a win. We also think that, limiting the facility just to the swim meet allows them to spread out through the whole facility across the lazy, on the island and the lazy river. If their kids aren't swimming, lets them socially distance more. And we don't have crossover between the swim meet participants and the general public. And like he said, staff has had multiple conversations with Mike Peterson. We've had 2 Zoom meetings with him, and we think we've come to a pretty good agreement here between ACAC and staff to make this meet successful. Masks and social distancing will be required with whatever policies are in place at Herman at that time of the swim meet. Sarah, you mentioned spectators. We've agreed to 2 spectators per swimmer at this point in time. The number will be reevaluated at the end of May and could change based on the number of swimmers in the meet and also COVID-19. So at this point, 2 per swimmer. There will be no outside food or beverage allowed into the facility other than water. No hospitality inside the facility. If ACAC wants to host a hospitality event, they can do it in the parking lot. So we'll be bringing no inside food, sharing of food, potlucks, like you're saying, Sarah, in the facility. This does also help with some of the concerns we've had in previous years with parking. Since we won't be open, ACAC will have basically all the parking except for 15 spots for our staff. ACAC will pay to staff the lazy river and the splash pool. We have to keep them guarded and clear, so they will pay to staff those. In the past, the rental rate has been $500 per day for the 50-meter basin alone. This year, it will be $750 per day for the entire facility. ACAC has agreed to this rental rate. We are recommending alternative number 1, which is approve renting the aquatic center to ACAC for $750 for June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And we do think this is a good option with allowing them to have the facility for COVID-19 protocols. And it also gives our customers access to the 50-meter pool on that weekend. So we do think it's a win. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know Mike is also on here, like Keith mentioned, so I'm sure he's happy to answer questions as well.
Great. No, I think this really answers pretty much all of my concerns about, and just the very, the level of planning that you all have put into discussing these events and appropriate precautions. I think everyone is really keeping it in mind. So, this is really indicative of that mindfulness about, it's still ongoing. So, yeah, thank you, Kelly.
Kelly, I like the fact that you've opened the pool up for just them, because I know that in years past, there's always been they need the cool down areas over there in the lazy river basin, and people had been in there. And so it kind of gives the pool to the swim activity and even the lower levels. So I'm glad to hear this, and I hope this continues even in non-COVID years. Mike might not like the rate, but I think it does solve some of the logistics for his teams, that they have other areas to cool down and warm up in and not have to kind of battle the little tiny kids wanting to go in the splash pool. So that's kind of cool to see. Thank you for doing that.
So Dwayne, to clarify, ACAC is not actually going to use the lazy river for warm-ups and cool downs. They have that option, but that will be an additional cost because we have to bring in extra guards for rotation. So that has been discussed with them. At this point, they're not planning to use the lazy river.
Ooh. So if we did option 2, would they have access to the lazy river?
Well, they have access to it. Mike knows that if he wants to use the lazy river, it would just be an additional lifeguard fee. So if they want to use it, they can. But at this point, they have chosen not to use the lazy river.
But what I'm asking is, if you're going to open it up to the public on option 2, would they then be able to use it for no additional cost?
Isn't option 2 just a reduced rate?
No, they're opening it up.
Yeah, that just reduces the rate.
But they don't have full control over the full facility.
No,
Yes,
it's just that usually $500 is charged just for them to use the basin. So it's just a difference between still charging them $500 or charging them $750. So they have the whole space, but not necessarily the 2 other pools.
That is correct.
So what's the benefit to them to pay an extra $250 to have space they're not going to be able to use?
Well, it's the rest of the deck and the grass.
But that they really don't need the rest of the deck if they're limiting the spectators.
They need the deck. And to your point, then other people the rest of the public aren't coming in and figuring out what they can and can't swim in. So
I think, Dwayne, one of the conversations that they've had with Mike is, again, with the COVID. In the past, they've just really hunkered down around that 50 meter, and to spread people out, and again to keep people safe, give them the whole facility, and they will spread out. When if their child is not in an event, they can go to other parts of the facility. They can have a tent. They can go to the hillside. They can do other things. So that's a conversation, correct, Kelly, that you've had?
Yep, absolutely. And Dwayne, they can use the lazy river if they want to. It's just an additional fee for the lifeguards. And Mike has chosen not to do that at this point in time, and maybe he can speak to why he has chosen not to. But it still can be added.
Because I guess where I'm kind of not real clear here is that you're charging extra, but you're limiting entrance.
But we're not allowing the public in during the time, so we will have lost revenue.
And that's what I said. What's the benefit for them to pay the higher thing if they're going to have limited entrance and still can't use the other basins?
They can use the other basins. They just have chosen not to.
I understand, but if we let the public in, then they're part of the public. If all those kids will have a park and rec fob that allows them to use that pool. So the ACAC team buys a summer pass.
Yeah, but the rest of the competitors don't have that. There's coming in from everywhere else. And then all the chairs and all the deck space where they're going to want to set up their own chairs and stuff. I mean, there's several teams coming in from all over the state and even Minnesota. And
my kid swam for Mike. That's what I'm saying. For being there, it's normally a lot of people and a lot of people out in the parking lot. And we're limiting to 2 people. So you're not going to have what we've had in the past. And it's normally the team kids are the ones hanging out in the tents. So I just kind of wanted that clarification. It seemed kind of strange that how that was set up.
I mean, the other thing is too, because they're going to have the entire facility, that gives Kelly more leeway to increase the number of spectators per participant. You know, if COVID cases are looking really good at the end of May, they can say, all right, now you have 3 or 4 people come with you. And whereas I think if we went with an option that it would be open to the public, which would allow them to use the lazy river for no additional cost, well, then you don't necessarily have the option, you don't have that leeway to say in May, cases are looking really good, so we can allow you to have more spectators. So I think this allows maximum flexibility for the club and maximum flexibility for the city to say, you know, great, you can have more spectators. And if they decide to pay for the additional lifeguard or 2 that it takes to staff the lazy river, how much additional cost is it, Kelly, to staff, 4 hours of staff time for a lifeguard?
Sure. So they have paid for the lazy river in years past. So I don't think that was in there, but when they've used the lazy river for warm ups and cool downs, in the morning time, they did pay for that staff. So
But last year or in 2019, it was $230 for additional staff time. That's what you had in the
Yep.
council action or commission action form.
okay, yep. So they have paid for that.
But they're at the lower rate, right? At the 5, what was their rate for the facility though?
Oh, it was 425 in 2019. Last year was supposed to go up to $500 per day plus the staff, but obviously it didn't happen last year.
So Dwayne, just maybe to help clarify between option 1 and option 2, generally what we have done when we bring these things to commission is we'll give you an option 1, the fee that we are proposing for this year, which generally we have had conversation. In this case, we've had conversation with Mike, and ACAC has agreed to that fee. Option 2 is we generally give the commission an option with the fees from the prior year. Just even like when we bring you the fees and charges in January, we give you approve them as listed, or we do give you the option to approve fees and charges what they were last year. Keep them the same. So it's really just kind of giving you that option in regards to here's what we're going to charge last year, but we're not. And it looks like Mike wants to talk. Are you guys good with allowing him to talk? Go ahead, Mike. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So in years past, we have used the lazy river. The thing that we're running into with COVID is that the rate has increased this year, and our numbers are going to be dramatically reduced to even host the meet. So to pay the extra lifeguard hours to open the lazy river didn't completely make sense to us. It's kind of why we didn't go down the route of the lazy river this year. Years past, it's been prelim final. That means kids swim in the morning and then they make it back to an evening swim. We're looking at just a time final meet at this point. We're just trying to get something for the kids to have, and then also understand the give and take balance with our community as a whole. So that's kind of why we didn't opt in or take advantage of the lazy river at this point. Is just, rates are increased, but numbers are reduced also on swim meet participants. So some of it's a give take on the money side of what we can do.
Mike, are you having a lower number of participants this year just because?
Yeah.
Some of the kids aren't participating in group sports or?
Yeah, we've had numbers come down, and then recruiting is kind of something that we haven't. It's been a challenge to where you're doing. If you get new athletes that come in, when you're limited to 6 kids per lane, and that's where we're at right now, we're doing 3 at one end, 3 at the other end. They're socially distanced, and you have 5 kids that are fairly apt at swimming, and then you add a 6th that is not understand what they're doing or not very good yet. All of a sudden, you have 5 participants that are really frustrated, and 1 that's getting run over and frustrated also. So it's been a real balance of how do you open up and bring kids in at the same space. The other end of it is running swim meets. We've been running swim meets with the similar restrictions, 6 kids per lane, and I mean the whole swimming community has been trying to figure this out over the whole winter, and it's been really successful. And we haven't, as far as I understand, we've hosted meets down at the Des Moines Y. We've hosted a lot of meets down there, and there's been no traced COVID breakouts to any of those meets. So we're really confident in the measures that we put forward in our swim programs and what we can do to get people back in the water safely. But our meet, we're at Rock the Blocks. We're still working through the exact numbers, and obviously those might change as we go. We're looking at potentially 12 kids per lane. You're doubling, right? You're doubling the distance, so you're doubling the potential number of kids in the water. And can that increase? Maybe. Can it decrease? Potentially. But that's kind of where we're at with that. We'll end up potentially running 2 separate warm-ups to increase the number of participants in the meet. We usually run 1 warm-up, and you just throw the kids in and do it. Given that we have the opportunity to spread out through the whole park a little bit more, we think that's a way that we can do that. I don't know if that helps understand some of that.
Yeah, I think Dwayne's concern is that we're pricing you out of the lazy river when you might need access to it, but it sounds like as of right now, the number of participants that you have planned to attend this, the 50-meter pool will be sufficient, and that you could add, if the number of participants increases beyond a point where you think that is that you need the lazy river, the option is still there. Is that kind of where you're at, Mike and Dwayne, or?
I was kind of thinking, just to be honest with you, that knowing what happened during the high school season, where, Mike's can be a little bit more selective. At high school, you really can't. They were on top of each other. And as Mike says, you have, they had to split the swimmers up into 4 groups, was it, Mike, for high school?
Mm-hmm.
And what ends up happening is we're putting a premium on him just to spread him out. But then we're also going to charge him for the lazy river, which they've had in the past. And we're also telling him you got to keep people kind of separate. So there's really no other basin for them to move to warm up. And so that's kind of where I was going, is that we're giving them a bigger space, but we're limiting their numbers, and then we're charging them extra for the other side of this. And you gotta, like I said up front, my kid was a swimmer. So I don't want to go down a path and really be Mike's advocate or whatever you want to be here, but I just kind of understand the logistics of what happens to these kids on these meets, that it seemed like we kind of put another charge against him, but priced him to make sure we spread them out. And if we get to the point this summer in June that isn't a need, then do we have the option of then reduce the price of having him have the whole complex? So it almost like we kind of tie it in, and I'd like it to be more flexible, as Keith was saying, to give them the abilities that if we come into June and there's really no restrictions anywhere, we kind of pigeonhole these guys into something that they can't get out of on a price. That makes sense?
Can we offer, and this is a question for Kelly, can we offer a reduced rate for the hourly lifeguard fee? Because I still think that them having the entire facility offers maximum flexibility if case counts aren't great at the end of May. But then, like Dwayne says, if they are and everything's looking good, and and they have more participants than they originally thought, can we make it less cost prohibitive for Mike to hire an additional lifeguard? I guess I'm just trying to find a compromise here, because I agree with Dwayne, but I also agree. I think that the scheduling of it and having the entire facility is the best way to go this year, especially. So
We're basically charging ACAC what we pay the lifeguard. They're paying us $12.73 an hour, and that's basically what we pay our guard. I think that was the middle. I think that was the middle or the step. So if we'd be taking a loss on the guard's rate of pay.
So Mike, as you had the conversations with Kelly and Nate and Jill, with it, and I get what you're saying with it, but how important is it to have the lazy river as a warm up? Okay? Even considering what you're doing right now with what you described, how important is it that you have the lazy river?
I'm trying to think how to say this. I'm sorry. I guess my thought is that if capacity allows us to open up more, then we can put more swimmers per lane in the 50 meter. So even though spectators may increase, my thought is that swim participants may have the opportunity to increase also. But the lazy river was mostly for warm up, cool down. And that would be after the initial warm up. So we've kind of come to terms with, and we've done it at other meets, that kids aren't getting that warm up, cool down after their initial races. I think so. I don't know if I would get too caught on the lazy river at this point. I think I have a different item that I would like to request if I could.
So just, why don't you make that request, and then I'll come back to all of it.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that talking to my guys, and this has kind of come up the last day or two, so I apologize, Kelly, that they've digging into it deeper with the scoreboard or the score table, our timers table. The request is to remove that whole timers table, and my guys that have run that in the past, the setup time that it takes to get the scoreboard talking to the timing system and the timing system talking to everything else is a fairly large undertaking. I think, Josh, you've seen Elliot coming in and testing all that stuff, and there's just some concern with tearing that whole table down Saturday afternoon and then coming back in Sunday morning and setting that completely up again. And just the time that it would take to do all that, if there's a compromise of where we could set that table up, potentially in a different location or something, but just so that we could get that timers table to stay there so that reset up part doesn't completely have to happen again. And I don't have any problem pulling blocks out and doing that type of stuff on all those other pieces that were requested. It's just that timers table, getting electronics, and I'm dealing with those guys spending a lot of time pre-meet to get it all to work.
I would suggest, Mike, I think that's something that you can work with Kelly, Jill, and Nate.
Okay.
I don't think that's a decision that the commission, really needs to weigh in on. And if you have some ideas and we can work, again, it was the safety concern with having cables and trip hazards and things of that sort, and having equipment out. So I think if you have some other ideas, I think you work with Kelly, Jill, and Nate between now and the meet and try to figure that out. In regards to the fees and with the lazy river, I guess my thought, Dwayne, is that with all of what I've been hearing, I think we're better off going with alternative one, charging the $750 and including the lazy river and give staff the opportunity or the ability to work with ACAC and have the number of hours and what that might look like. So I think it would be better if they wanted to use it, included in the 750 and stay with alternative one, would be my thought.
Thank you.
Okay, so sort of Keith's suggestion is to approve alternative one at the rate of $750 per day and then adding, do you want a separate motion to direct staff to discuss with them their needs, because maybe we only need it for 2 hours or, something.
I think whoever makes the motion, just makes the motion, approve alternative one, with the addition of the lazy river would be available as part of that fee. I don't think it needs to be a separate motion, just included in that.
Well, since I started all this mess, sorry guys. I just wanted to keep Eve on the board longer. That's why.
You're never gonna escape your last meeting.
I move that we accept or approve alternate one with the addition of adding in the lazy river for this time that they are renting.
And maybe you should add in there too, Dwayne, that it includes the cost of the guards.
And it includes the cost of the guards. Did you get all that, Sarah?
Yep. Would anyone care to second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion?
I can't vote because of a conflict of interest, but I really do appreciate how the relationship is developed between ACAC and Parks and Rec, especially in this. And I hope this kind of arrangement for Rock the Blocks can work like this in the future as well. For people that haven't been around a long time, a gazillion years ago, I worked to move Furman ahead to get that bond passed. And it wouldn't have passed without the support of ACAC. They're the ones that really got out the vote. They mobilized people to get to the polls, and it passed overwhelmingly because of their support. So I know there are people that complain the one weekend that they're using it, but we wouldn't have the pool without ACAC. So I appreciate this collaboration.
Okay, any additional discussion? All right, all in favor of moving alternative one to rent the Furman Aquatic Center at the rate of $750 per day on June 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2021 for the ACAC Youth Swim Meet. With the addition of this rental rate will include access to the lazy river and staffing for the lazy river, and reserving the proposed dates and related times for ACAC to host a swim meet in 2022, which will be evaluated at a later date. All in favor of alternative one, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, and Eve is abstaining. Seeing no opposition, the motion carries. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Kelly and Dwayne, for a good discussion on that. So, okay. Next item is a motion approving the agreement with Ames Little League for use of Brookside Park baseball fields. Oh, God.
For many years, Ames Little League has used baseball fields in the park system. Now that all of them are focused in Brookside Park, this is the 5th year that we have had an agreement with Ames Little League. It developed an agreement. It's gone really, really well. And so our recommendation is to approve alternative 1, which is approve the agreement with Ames Little League regarding use of fields 7, 8, and 9 in Brookside Park from March 26, 2021 to November 1, 2021. Like I said, they've been really good to work with. We want to provide this opportunity. Many years ago, they helped build those fields or provide funds to build those fields in Brookside Park, and specifically fields 8 and 9. And it's been good to be able to provide that opportunity for them. So staff's recommendation is alternative 1.
We gotta approve this right now. We're playing tomorrow, right? March 26th.
No, that's just, I don't know when they start, but that's just that's when we can't allow them play if we don't approve it, right? No.
Right.
They have the opportunity to start tomorrow. So
Everyone wrong. Attachment open. A Little League agreement.
I don't see the recommendations.
Yeah, I don't see the commission. I see the request, and that's like the contract.
The agreement I have, yeah, but I can.
There's no alternative 1 on there. That's just the agreement. But if alternative 1 is just to approve the agreement.
Alternative 1 says approve the agreement with Ames Little League regarding use of field 7, 8, and 9 in Brookside Park from March 26, 2021 to November 1st, 2021.
So moved.
What you said, second.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, any discussion? All in favor of approving alternative 1 to approve the agreement with Ames Little League regarding the use of fields 7, 8, 9 in Brookside Park, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Oh, okay. Next item on the agenda is a motion recommending to council for approval of a location for the splash pad project.
And I'm going to share screen. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So it went through, there's a lot of information in the commission action form for you. I'm not gonna go through every little piece, go through the history. You kind of have read that. We do have $500,000 for construction. But what I just want to do is go through and just walk you through a few things. So, with splash pads, they're 0 depth. There's no standing water with them. It's above ground or in-ground spray features, above ground water features. There is a programmable timer on these, so we can say the water would be available from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's an activation button, so as long as the timer is activated, somebody could activate the features with that activation button. And then we talked about before that it is including the recirculation system. So just again, these are just a couple of examples of a splash pad. But you can see 0 depth, no standing water, a couple different surface options with that. The in-ground spray features, generally they're kind of the bubblers, the water shooting up. but there is nothing else attached to them. It's just coming, out of the ground level spray. Above ground water features, you can see just a wide variety of different options. It could be themed. It could be dump buckets. You have hoops that spray that people can walk through. At the water cannons that turn around and can spray people. And then there are the option for other water features as well. But all of this, as you can see, all accessible, inclusive. That's really the goal with these splash pads. So activation button, just a couple of different options. It could be as easy as push a button, put your hand on there so people understand. Kids know, oh, I just put my hand on there. Things will start going. And there are some that you could step on. Recirculation system, not going to go through this whole diagram, but basically it operates like a pool. The water is recirculated, and probably with our estimates that we shared with the commission and council in the past, the recirculation system will be using about 10% of the water that a flow-through system would use. And that's where the water just goes through the features and then goes directly to the sanitary sewer system. So with this, what we did is we looked at some location criteria, and one, it is a requirement with the Model Aquatic Health Code and IDPH that a restroom is within 200 feet and has clear sight lines. One of the criteria that we have with these types of features is that it's out of the floodplain. There is a wading pool in Brookside Park in the floodplain right now. And when we first started putting this in the CIP, or we first put it in the CIP, we had conversation with the commission at the time and the council, and it was agreed that it should go out of the floodplain. Fits with park philosophy. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have flat space available, parking available, visible from the road, minimize maintenance issues if we can, safety. Community equity is when we're putting amenities like this into the park system, we need to be spraying them out throughout the community. You can't put them all on the east end or the north end. And we really don't have a lot of amenities on the west end right now. So that's why we're looking to do that. And then also, easy to access. So with it, as far as options, we started, and we do this with a lot of our projects. We look at all 38 parks that we have, and we start going down to through them with criteria, and in a lot of cases we start eliminating the parks. So with this one, with the restroom requirement, we did have to eliminate a lot of parks, 30 of them, and then we're down to these 8 because they do have permanent restrooms. Then what we did is we looked at those 8 against the criteria that we showed earlier, and with this, if you kind of look at that first column, restroom within 200 feet, clear sight lines, you can see. So I will mention East Brookside, West Brookside. There is flat space on the east side of Brookside, east of the creek, Iowa Creek. And it's right next to Brook Ridge. It's north of 6th Street. That's where we're talking. It's out of the floodplain. But that one, it does not meet the restroom requirement. Innis Grove does not meet the restroom requirement because it wouldn't be within 200 feet. Also, commission and council has said, hey, let's not over-program Innis Grove as well. And then Moore Memorial falls into that same situation. So those 3 were eliminated. And then as far as out of the floodplain, West Brookside, that is in the floodplain, so we eliminated that. And then also River Valley is in the floodplain, so that was eliminated. Then when you look at the fit with park philosophy, Ada Hayden, more of an environmental park, conservation style park, and that's why we don't have playgrounds, we don't have ball fields, we don't have these types of features up there because it just doesn't fit with that philosophy. Bandshell is more of a, an entertainment venue with the band shell, the concerts. And also if we were to put it up there, there's just not the space available because we would take a lot of space out of the area where people would sit and participate in events. So what that left us with is Daly Park and Emma McCarthy Lee Park. And with Emma McCarthy Lee, the location that we looked at that meets the criteria. Some of the criteria is just west of the tennis courts in that area, and then you can see the restroom up there in kind of upper left hand portion. Remember too that this coming year we will be converting 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts as well in this location. And then with Daly Park, you can see the location there with it, and it's just off of Wilder, just west of the basketball pad and kind of north of the shelter. So as we looked at these 2 sites, and again, the information is in the commission action form with the pros and cons. We listed those out, and really with this, they both have adequate parking. With Emma McCarthy Lee, you do have it's all off-street parking. It's right down there at that level. With Daly Park, much smaller parking lot, 18 to 20 stalls, and then there is on-street parking. Right now, the on-street parking is on the west side of Wilder. I have talked with Public Works, and the reason why it's on the west side is because the water line and fire hydrants are on the east side of the park. But what we are proposing, and we would take this to council, is that from Thackeray, which is the first cross street to the south of the park, up to just north of where the creek is, and in the park boundary, there is only 1 fire hydrant in that space, and it's right at the park entrance. So they do not have an issue with asking council to move the parking to the east side, and that would add another about 24 spots on the east side of the park. So people would not have to cross the street. So just wanted to point that out. There was a concern that was brought up. I did bring it up at the Daly Park meeting. Brought that up, asked if there were any concerns about changing the side, and nobody said anything, with that. So really for us, from staff, as we looked at these 2 options, they both have flat space available and the restroom requirement and so on. For staff, what it comes down to is visibility, safety, and accessibility is really what we look at. And kind of highlighted that in the commission action form. But for us, as far as visibility, this obviously, when you go by Wilder, you'll be able to see it. There are homes that will be able to see it. People will be able to see it. At Emma McCarthy Lee Park, it's down in the lower portion. You're not going to be able to see it. Vandalism was one of the concerns that was brought up in both meetings, and what we have found in the park system, the more secluded something is, the more opportunity and the more vandalism that we see to facilities and to amenities and just to areas. So the potential with Emma McCarthy Lee with kind of out of sight, we feel that there would be more potential issues with that. When we're talking safety, again, when it's more visible, more eyes on it, provides a safer environment. The other thing, with when we look at safety, is the fact that at Emma McCarthy Lee, we do not have sidewalks on Ross Road. So for children in the neighborhood, and you can see in the commission action form too, kind of cited that those numbers I got from our GIS division is within a half mile of Emma McCarthy Lee, there are 400 and some kids, that are within a half mile radius. When you go to Daly Park, that number jumps up to over 800, almost twice as many kids in the neighborhood. So we want to make sure that it's safe. So that is one of the issues. And accessibility, that kind of ties in again with no sidewalks. Emma McCarthy Lee Park does, once the bridge is complete, we'll have access from Oakland Access or Oakland Street. But with Daly Park, there are sidewalks on both sides of Wilder. There is the path that goes along the creek all the way to South Dakota, and then there's access points from some of the other circles and drives and so on that you can get to that path as well. So with this, staff's recommendation is alternative 1. And alternative 1 is to recommend to City Council to approve constructing a splash pad in Daly Park. And with this City Council does have the final decision-making authority with it. So I would entertain any questions.
We did get, oh, go ahead, Dwayne.
Keith, how many, I know during the open forums you had, there wasn't a whole lot of people. So have you had any folks since then come to you? I know you had a few emails and thing, but what's the response on like the city survey or something to that effect about even having a splash pad?
Well, we have, and you can see in those, in the comments, and I think first off, we had, it was 13 or 16 people at the McCarthy Lee one. And we had 6 people at the Daly Park one. With both of those, staff felt, and I think Dwayne, you probably agree that in both situations, there was a lot of positive comments about a splash pad, having it in the facility. Over the years, we have had comments, not necessarily right now, but comments about, hey, can we get a splash pad? The city of Ames should have a splash pad. Small communities across the state have a splash pad. We don't have one. And that's really what initiated even putting in the CIP in the first place, was those kinds of comments. And when we go through the CIP and it's in there, occasionally I'll get an email, maybe a phone call saying, hey, we saw the splash pad is in there. We love it. Can't wait, and so on. So, and you can see with some of the comments, either through email or through Facebook comments, there are some positive comments in there, but there were a good number of questions, in regards to things. But even some of the back and forth and the questions, eventually the final comment was, hey, sounds like a great thing. But again, it's not everybody is in favor of it, and that sometimes is the difficult thing for commission is, do a couple of people or several people that are maybe against it, don't want it, does that outweigh the benefit for the community, for putting an amenity like this in the park system? So maybe a little bit more than what you were looking for, Dwayne, but that's just some history of what we have had over the years in regards to support for the splash pad.
No, I think during the meetings there was kind of, like anything, we always get the people who don't want it and the people who really want it. And the comments were just more informational.
Yeah.
And so I did the cards that went out, so I wasn't sure what was actually on those. But I mean, it's a great idea. I just didn't know how much, how many people were asking you for that. I mean, I would have loved to have that when my kids were that age. So.
Yeah, and just to get some idea, we did send this out to, I think we sent postcards to about 125, 140, somewhere in that range, households in close proximity to each of these 2 parks. We also did send out a reminder to, I think, over 9,000 emails, if I got the number correct from Katie. So And we did do a press release on it as well. So we tried, and we put it on our website. We posted it on Facebook. So we really tried to get the word out there. And sometimes when people don't come in, they like it. They don't comment and say, "Oh, great idea," but they don't take the time to chime in. But generally, if people have some concerns, they will take the time to jump on or make send an email. Now, we did have a couple of people that did try to get on to the meetings. They weren't able to. What I did do is I sent them the slides, and I sent them the video of the presentation so they could view it. And then some people, and you can see that in the kind of some of the email chains, people did have some additional questions, regarding it. So, yeah, any other questions?
Are there any specific neighborhood concerns that you've addressed directly? We did get one citizen feedback emailed to us, or at least I just got the one directly to us, in terms of parking, or, from my perspective, I know I walk my dog a lot in Daly Park. I think the green space that would be eliminated from the, turned into the splash pad, like there's a huge other green space on the other side of the playground equipment. There were some concerns about, noise or anything like that, but.
Yeah, and noise, you're gonna have noise, and for us in recreation, that's a good thing. When there's people happy, smiling, laughing, screaming, enjoying, whether it's a splash pad, it's a tennis court, just running around, kicking a ball, playing on a playground. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want. We're trying to provide opportunities for people. In regards to the green space, I think you hit it right, Sarah, is that Daly Park is 15 and a half acres. The size of this splash pad, we're looking at it probably about just over a tenth of an acre. So it's taking a little chunk out, but if you look at what, like you said, and I'll just share my screen real quick again, with Daly, if you look at that, again, we have the parking lot. This is where we're looking at. Beyond here, the two playgrounds, a swing. Beyond here to the west is a large open, green field. So there still will be a lot of green space that will be available for people to play. So with these, we'll, with the comments, when we get to the sitting down with the consultants, with the design, we share this information. We share what we hear from the neighbors, and if we can address some of those situations or some of those comments, we will do that.
Are there any hours for this facility outside of the park hours, so it would just be open whenever, or
No. What we're looking at right now, we do not have to staff it because there's no standing water. We will have to, because of the recirculation system, pop in throughout the day. But what we're looking at is having the features available roughly from 11 to 7, that time frame. And then there's a possibility that maybe we're opening it up for a rental. Somebody wants to have a birthday party, they want the splash pad to themselves, they could rent it. We could do something like that as well.
Yeah, I think there was a small concern about churches meeting at the park, but if it wouldn't be open until, if you couldn't turn it on until midday, maybe on Sundays, if there's a church meeting at the picnic shelter, maybe on Sundays you can't start it till noon or something, maybe that would alleviate some of the concerns
Yeah,
of the neighborhood of other people. I don't just kind of scrolling through the emails. But I agree with you. Overall, it seems very positively received. There's a pretty large splash pad in Sioux Falls. And I know my niece has enjoyed it. It's great for little kids. And great for summer days. I don't share the concern that it's not good for this climate because they have one in Sioux Falls and it's colder there. So, yeah, I think it's a nice neighborhood amenity. And it's like every time I drive past Ines Grove, it's very busy right now, but it's also kind of the shiny new penny, and like we've discussed earlier, everybody's itching to get out of the house right now. And so outdoor spaces are busy, but I don't know if that's a bad thing. It's just everything's busy right now. But I don't have any other concerns or questions. I think knowing that there is a time limited that you could come at like 6 in the morning and turn it on like that would be my primary concern. So if it's not going to turn on outside the hours of the facility, that's pretty much my main concern. So okay, this will be my last motion, and then I'm going to have to log off, and so I will.
you want to see if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak? You can raise your hand if you want to speak on this topic.
Nobody.
Nope, we have one. So Moto Z4, go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson and Commission, this is Beth McPhail. I'm the one that wrote several emails. I would like to convey thank you for letting me participate. And again, I don't feel that this is a feature that Daly Park needs. It's a feature that maybe Ames needs, but not on the west end. We have the parking, even if you move the parking, Mr. Abrahamson, they're still going to park on both sides. And if they don't park there, they're going to go on to the side street. So, and I still feel that this feature will take away from Ames Premier Park. And that's the way I feel about Daly Park. I have been a resident of Ames for over 30 years, and I have lived on the West End for about 25. So thank you for letting me voice my concern, and I sincerely hope that the commission will not approve Daly Park for the splash pad. Please put this pad someplace else. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I really appreciate Beth speaking out. Not a lot of people take the time to research these things and then actually say something about it. I do have a couple of thoughts. One, I think this is going to be hugely popular. So if parking is going to be an issue at any of the parks, it's something to be taken into consideration. It's a cool feature, and before I had kids, if I heard about a splash pad, I didn't understand why it was so cool, but they love it. Like, it's a big deal, and people will come. It'll be fantastic. So I do think we have to resolve the parking thing, because the first warm day, you're going to have a bunch of people there. That said, we've also had several concerns complaints that there's not a lot on the west side, and people have kind of bemoaned the fact that Ames keeps putting things in the center of town or in a different place, and we've heard from a lot of people that want things on the west end of town. So I really appreciate Beth speaking out, and I really do want to take parking into consideration, but we also need to look at space available. Daly has great open space. If we can figure out a parking solution or just consider what that means. But I think it's a great thing, and I think Ames will love it.
I mean, from a parking standpoint, you know, I lived in Campus Town for 8 years or something like that, and we lived close to the cross country course, and there was and football parking and cross country meet parking, and it could certainly get chaotic. I think we moved right before they changed it to do the increased fines. This might be an additional discussion with Ames Police that needs to happen regarding parking enforcement in the area. You know, planning for increased parking. Obviously, we don't want to take away a ton of green space, but there may be a way to make that parking lot a little bit larger without sacrificing a ton of space. I don't know. I think it's been pointed out it is a concern, but I don't know. I mean, I lived in Campus Town for 8 years and I walked a lot of places, and I know there's a lot of families in this neighborhood with young children who walk to the park, and so I think, you know, those people are going to be on bicycle or on foot, and are there going to be people driving there? Yeah, but you know, it's still a neighborhood amenity, so.
And I should say that I don't know if any of our parks really have the parking for something like this. It's going to be wildly popular. So, I mean, you're going to have a problem kind of anywhere you go, but I think it's a good problem to have, but still going to might be a problem.
And then we have had some discussion about what you just said, Sarah, increasing the parking, doing something. So that is something that we could easily, I don't want to say easily, but we could incorporate into the CIP in the future and address a parking need if it is needed.
Right. Any additional discussion? Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion regarding making a recommendation to City Council on the placement of the splash pad?
Hey, I'm a West Sider, so I move that we approve alternative 1.
I will second that.
Okay. Motion from Dwayne and a second from Jeremy to approve alternative 1, which is to recommend to City Council approve construction of a splash pad in Daly Park. Any additional discussion? Okay. All in favor of recommend alternative 1 to City Council, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. I'm gonna sign off, Keith, so handing my virtual gavel over to Jacob. And thank you, Eve, for your service. And best wishes to you. So, okay.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, I think we are on to the 9th item on the agenda. So the staff report regarding the name change of Squaw Creek to Ioway Creek.
Yeah. So So in the staff report, just laid out that there was a name change. Story County Board of Supervisors and City Council did approve unanimously, making a recommendation for the name change. And on February 11th, the U.S. Board of Geographic Names, who has final authority, did make the change from Squaw Creek to Ioway Creek. So we do have Squaw Creek Park, where community gardens are. And with that, we also do have a naming policy, which renaming. So with this, and rather than just jumping in and saying we're going to change it to Ioway Creek, we felt it was necessary to follow our naming policy, renaming policy, and I guess really what we're looking for from commission is to just some direction, but also if you want to make a motion, just directing staff to communicate to residents that there is a naming opportunity, and we'll get the application out there and we'll communicate to people and see what comes up. Now, somebody might say, let's just change it to Ioway Creek. There may be something else. Somebody may have some other names that they would like to see, but we feel it is important to follow our policy and give people the opportunity to provide names based on the criteria that we have in the naming policy.
Is there a time frame or timeline for what that renaming looks like?
Well, I think with it, the process itself would be is when we get the applications in, they're reviewed by the director, and then the director will make a recommendation to the commission based on the application, and then the commission will make a recommendation, either the same as the director or a different. But they make that recommendation to City Council, and then City Council would have the final authority on the name change. Now, how long that takes, really think it depends on the timing of it. But one of the things that commission could say is direct staff to put it out there for a certain amount of time, or to accept applications. If you potentially wanted to look at this for your April meeting. Now, April meeting is early. I believe April 15th is the date, so that's about the earliest that a meeting could be held in a month. But if you want to do that, and we could get the word out. If you wanted us to get it out for a period of time and bring something back in May, we could do that as well. So I guess the timing of it would be really how long do you want to have an opportunity for residents to get the information, and then give them enough time to complete an application and submit it.
If I can make a quick comment here, I think this is a great opportunity, and I think our residents will kind of like this. So a month, I think, is too little a time. If we can get some public relation material out in our monthly newsletter that goes out with the bill, and some digital public relations stuff would be good. I would like to see a little more than a month, though.
I agree with that too.
Kelly, what's the timing of city side?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. So the next one would be the June edition. So that goes out, it's mailed May 1st through the end of the month, basically. Because the other one is coming out right now, basically. It's probably being stuffed into envelopes.
So when do we have to have the information available to Susan?
Probably, let's see, I'm looking at a calendar right now, Keith. I always trying to have it to her by like the 1st of the month. So by probably next Thursday or Friday.
Okay. So with that, if you wanted to do it, we could get it in the May city side and then bring something to the commission. Well, June, we usually go on a tour, but we have done items prior to the tour. So I guess you could do that, or and you might even want to wait till July meeting, just because somebody may not get city side until the end of May, and then to give them time to get an application and submit it. So I don't think there's any real hurry that needs to be done, but I think the important thing, and what I'm hearing commission say, is really a great opportunity. Give residents the opportunity to submit something and see what they come up with.
So with a July vote, maybe we can do a nice fall unveiling of a new sign or something,
Yeah. And I don't think we have a sign there right now, but that's probably something that we should do. So we've been waiting. We figured there would be a name change at some point. That's why we've been holding off on not putting the sign up.
It's good foresight.
All right, so if somebody would want to make a motion to that would be helpful.
Yeah, I can do that. I'd like to move that the commission approve staff to do a public relations campaign, including print and digital media, for a change of the Squaw Creek Park with a vote in July.
Okay, there's been a motion by Nathan. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second, so we'll go into a vote. Or is there a discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, discussion.
Discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll move into a vote. If you support the motion, if you could say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, seeing none, the motion passes.
And just so Nathan, you made the motion. Who seconded it?
Jeremy.
All right.
No? Oh.
Dwayne did. Dwayne.
Apologies.
I was just rallying over here.
All right.
Okay, we will move on to the 10th item, which is a motion to hold the Parks and Rec Commission April 15th meeting virtually or in person.
Has it now been a year, Keith?
It has. Well, maybe even 13 months, because I think we did. I don't remember if we did our first one in April or March. I think it might have been April. So it was a year. I know right now, and this is always a question that you have asked in the past. City Council is still planning on continuing with virtual meetings, and one of the things that they do like about it is it does provide people an opportunity to come and go a little bit more convenient, with it. And we saw that maybe a little bit tonight. We had a good number of people to start with, and now we're down to two diehards on there. So, and I'm not aware of any other commissions or boards that are meeting in person yet. But again, that's just FYI.
I know we are making. I know we're doing this on account of COVID. Is there any rule as to how long we can continue this way? Or, I mean, there's really no precedent, I don't think.
No, there's no rule. With the council chambers and with what we have as an organization, masks would be required. Still would do social distancing, but masks are still required even if you can social distance. And then that would eliminate or not maybe eliminate, but it would minimize how many people could actually get into the council chambers. So
This certainly is convenient. There's no doubt about it.
I think where I'm at, I'd love to have in person. I just don't think we're quite ready for this yet, and we'll probably get there later on this summer. But I would just definitely make a motion to do our April meeting virtually.
Okay. Nathan has made a motion to hold the April 15th meeting virtually. Is there a second?
I'll second, I guess.
Oh, okay. There's a second from Jeremy. We will move into discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
It would have been weird for me to second it, Jeremy, so I was looking at you or somebody.
I was waiting for Eve.
Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll move into a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. So our next meeting will be held virtually. We'll move on to project updates.
Yeah, just with project updates, obviously the Homewood Clubhouse is moving along. It is in the monthly report. A little bit more of an update, but right now we are optimistic, and obviously things could change, but potentially that we could take possession of the clubhouse around April 12th. That's correct, right, Joshua? Somewhere in that time. So, and what I'll do is, and I know I mentioned this at the last meeting, but if anybody does want a tour of the clubhouse next week, let me know, and I'll meet you out there and give you a before grand opening tour. So it's starting to come along with it. And I know Joshua had the information in there about the bridge at McCarthy Lee, so we won't talk about that. But maybe Joshua and Kelly, do you want to speak to the slope stabilization project at Homewood, because we did not have that in the monthly report?
Sure. What the project that Keith is referring to is starting Keith and I actually looked at this probably over 10 years ago. But on at Homewood Golf Course behind hole number 4, it overlooks the Skunk River. And over the last few years, that slope has started to slough quite a bit. And Public Works Department tried to address that issue a couple years ago with a project to take native species vegetation, and really what they did is they took all the non-native species off that hill and tried to revegetate it with native species, try to get long, deep rooting plants to stabilize that soil. Well, or to stabilize that slope. What happened is that the plantings didn't work. They didn't take hold. It was a really, really wet year. And basically the project didn't have the results that they expected. It ended up failing. So they went back to the drawing board, and they came up with a new idea. And so basically the slope right now is a 1-to-1 slope, maybe steeper was 1-to-1 slope. And what they wanted to do is bring the slope back to 1 to 1.5 slope, just to bring that so the slope wouldn't fail. The reason being is, first off, for the golf course sake, if that slope is done, if the slope continues to fail, we wouldn't have a hole number 4 or par 3 there. And then also at the bottom of that slope is a 36-inch sanitary sewer main that they needed to protect. So it's a pretty big project that needed to get done. So Public Works, on the direction of Tracy Warner and Jake Moore, worked with WHKS to develop specifications, and a bid was let in, I believe, mid to late December. The project started sometime in early January, and the goal was, and what was written in the specifications, that this project was supposed to be 90% complete prior to the golf course opening on April 1st. Everything moved along very well. They moved over 8,000 cubic yards of dirt off this hill during the month of February. We were looking like we were going to be able to, that they were going to meet their goal of being completed by April 1. I had a meeting this past Monday, and the contractor had pulled off to let the ground thaw at the end of February. The contractor has not been back on the site because of some concerns with moisture, and they still think that there was at that time some frost in the slope. So to make a long story short, the project is not completed, and what has been decided at this point in preparation for opening the golf course on April 1 is we're going to have, instead of a 9-hole golf course, we're going to shut down 2 holes and make it 7 holes. And maybe Kelly can talk about the what we're doing for pricing in those instances, but that's where we're at right now. The expected completion is supposed to be by April 15th. Granted, there's gonna have to be some seating that takes place on hole number 4 and hole number 3, because that's where the travel of the trucks and the equipment went across on number 3 to get to number 4. So it's gonna be a little while before there's gonna be great, nice green grass on those fairways, but well, we hope to open that hole by the end of April. So Kelly, if you want to give any more information that I missed, go for it.
I think you got it all, Joshua. We basically are going to charge 7/9 of our price for 9 holes. We will not have carts, obviously, until the new clubhouse is open, mid-April, hopefully. And then, if we still don't have holes 3 and 4 open, we'll reduce the price of the cart as well, just for the 7 holes or 14 holes if they were planning to play 18. There'll be no discounts on season passes because of it. They could play 2 7 rounds if they wanted with the season pass.
Well, that's just an update that we wanted to give. So other than that, I don't think there's really any other project updates that we wanted to share.
We'll move on to the monthly report then.
Kelly or Joshua, if there's anything you want to highlight.
Spring and summer fitness classes are already online for registration, and other programs, youth programs, adult programs are coming on daily. I expect summer camps, the rest of the tennis lessons, gymnastics, dance, those types of programs to be on within the next week or so. www.amesparkrec.org.
Will be shelter rentals start April 15th. The shelters will be open at that point, and then also our goal is to have the restrooms open at that time, starting on April 15th. Sometimes it leaks into later than that, depending on the weather. In regards to water fountains, we are going to be opening those, but those are more susceptible to freezing and to damage from lower temperatures. So we're going to wait. We always wait a little while before we turn those on, but weather dependent, we hope to have those on by the end of April, first part of May.
Can I chime in here too? When does the old Lowhead Dam on East River Valley Park, when are we planning to open that up?
So we're having on May 1st at 10 a.m. is, and I'll get this out to everybody, but on May 1st, 10 a.m., there will be a ribbon cutting for it. So right now we've had still have it fenced off because we want to get the turf established and so on. But once we do the ribbon cutting, we'll have it open at that time. Now, some people have been down there accessing it from the river with their canoes and kayaks that they're putting in somewhere else and coming down and enjoying it.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to recognition of outgoing commission member Eve Letterhouse.
So Eve, it's been 3 years I think you were appointed to the commission in 2018. How time flies when you're having fun, right? So, they just from I'll speak on, and Kelly and Joshua can jump in here too. But from a staff standpoint, I would just say we really appreciate your support of everything that we do, whether it's been during meetings or an email or a phone call. Publicly, supporting what we do and getting people in the park and programs and so on. And we really appreciate that. On a personal level, I really appreciate the time that you spent on the commission. I really appreciate your candor. I appreciate that you speak what's on your mind and share your thoughts, even if it might not be popular. And maybe even if it does go against what staff is recommending. And that's not always easy to do. And like you mentioned earlier, with people speaking up, again, especially if it's in opposition. So I really appreciate it. I've really appreciated getting to know you over these last 3 years, and hopefully you're not a stranger to our department and stop in every once in a while, and I'm sure we'll see you around. We do have a little gift, but you'll have to wait to get that. When I deliver your mug, your coffee mug to you. So I'll bring it all to you at some point, but truly thank you for everything that you've done, providing guidance for staff and to city council, and really helping us move forward to providing and meeting the needs and expectations of residents of Ames. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Maybe I should stick around.
Anybody else have any comments at this time?
It's been a big pleasure. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I've learned a lot, and it's been a good commission to be a part of. Just have some other things on the horizon. So, not leaving Ames.
Good. And two of our last commission members are on the school board right now. Is that where you're moving to?
No, not gonna. That's.
if you do, that's quite all right. So, Joshua, Kelly, any comments?
Eve, I just want to echo Keith's words. Thank you so much for just taking a part of this. Taking time out of your day away from your family to do this is a big thing. And so we just want to thank you and look forward to seeing you in the future. Like he said, don't be a stranger. But thanks again.
My pleasure.
Ditto, Eve. I can't say any better than the two of them. Thank you, and I'm guessing I'll see you at Furman.
Yep, for sure.
We'll see ya.
Yep, for sure. And I think you could nominate Jacob to be president next year, because he's clearly shown massive skills for that.
And I will say too is, and we'll spend more time, but your replacement on the commission is Nicole Fannin, and she has been sitting in on the meeting the whole night, getting information. So we'll give Nicole a chance to share a little bit more about herself at the next meeting. So thanks again, Eve, for everything.
Thank you.
All right. We will go on to commission member comments. Are there any comments from members of the commission? Okay. Well, the next meeting is Thursday, April 15th at 4 p.m. On Zoom. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, let me. So moved.
Okay.
Well done, Eve.
Thanks, everybody.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.